International Monetary Fund, IMF. Check how many Chinese there are. Is anyone there who is not pro-CCP? The World Bank too. Is there anyone in the World Bank who is not pro-CCP? And there is nobody that hasn't been corrupted by the CCP yet, including the WTO, not to mention the United Nations. The United Nations is a sellout, a union of sellouts. It was completely controlled by the CCP. It is a completely ruthless. Since the end of World War II, the UN has completely corrupted by money. It ignores the Chinese people in dire suffering and Uyghurs being massacred. Yugoslavia. The United Nations has never once stood on the side of justice. It has always been on the side of the evil. So fake democracy is more terrible than no democracy. The so-called United Nations ballot system, voting system, their so-called international democratic politics is nonsense, complete nonsense. You can see how we pro-democracy fighters were treated after the June 4th Tiananmen massacre. What has the UN done? Yeah, that's it. The UN has been under control of the CCP. The Fed has been infiltrated. You know, previously in Washington in 2016 and 2017, and I told them, I said the buildings across the street, the U.S. Treasury Department, next to the White House, facing the Federal Reserve, next to it, U.S. Ministry of Defense, I don't want to mention the names. Remember, everyone, it was those who has brought up about Fed recently, and those who from the U.S. militaries discuss about fighting for Taiwan. They have all been to my house for dinner. In 2015, 2016, and 2017, we had dinner at my house together. I've been talked about it in some live streams before. I asked him in person about the so-called 36 CIA agents who were killed in China, which were actually more than 60 of them, and about Tong Baowu being executed. He looked very surprised then. He was surprised how I could know about it. I told him that all of them were deceived by the CCP, or were bought off. Among them, I met with many people from the Federal Reserve, and I said that you have been infiltrated. At the end of 2014, when I first arrived in the UK, and the person in the White House of the State Department, who are responsible for national security and in charge of Chinese affairs, I met with him in London. I told him he need to realize that soon. The CCP will be the biggest threat of the U.S., the all-around threat. I told him to look into Treasury Department, the Federal Reserve, the Congress. Look carefully, how many people have been working with the CCP, especially the Federal Reserve. Why did I specifically talk about the Federal Reserve then? He said, why the Fed? What does the Fed have that the CCP is interested? He was a senior official at the time who was the White House's Asia-China Connect strategic advisor. He doesn't know why the CCP is interested in the Fed. I said it's the U.S. financial strategy and all policies. They want them all. And I said that China has already prepared a digital currency to compete with the United States. They want to be the leader in those fields, including quantum technology and the comprehensiveness strategy of currency. At that time, they thought I was crazy. It all has happened now. So now, Fed realizes the CCP's infiltration of the United States is like a person suddenly found his enemy has planted a lot of bombs in his body. How will the person react? All the national debt of the United States, monetary policy, as well as the entire domestic gross economy, the annual plan, and real data. That's terrifying for them. China has already seized all that information by stealing, coercion, corruption, and so on.